Assalamu alaikum. Welcome everyone to the live masterclass organized by DevNation, and that is on the mission to upskill developers in Pakistan and help them become Silicon Valley caliber developers. I am Mudassar, and I'm the co-founder of DevNation, and we have a special guest tonight with us, Wafaa. She is from Egypt, and she has extensive experience working as a software engineer in Dubai. And she will talk about how you can build beautiful dashboards in JavaScript. So as we all know that the data in every company is increasing. So every company is looking to build dashboard where they can visualize their data so they can make better decisions. So over to you, Wafa. You can take the floor and start here.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you, Mudassir, for the introduction. Am I well audible? Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we are hearing.
Okay, great. So I hope you're all doing well. I'm very excited for today's session. But before we dive in, I want to point out that we will need Node.js, which is a runtime environment, and NPM, which is the Node Package Manager, and Visual Studio Code. So if you guys do not have them installed, I will share the links right now in the chat. So you can go ahead and download them. Before we reach our interactive coding class.
That is on the mission to help developers. We have Mudassir, I'm the co-founder of DevNation, and we have a special guest.
Okay, so I'll share my screen now and let's dive in. So, like I mentioned, we will need Node.js and NPM and Visual Studio Code. I sent the links in the chat for everyone that's joining. You can click on the links and go ahead and download them while we have a little presentation before we start the interactive coding. So the way I like to do this is by first I will introduce myself, and we will talk a little bit about my background, and we'll talk about software development, career options in the industry, the business background, business applications that you can work on, and we will start the dashboard building, and then we will finally close off our class with some tips and recommendations. Okay. So who am I? I am an Egyptian software engineer based in Dubai. I have been living in the UAE actually for the last 15 years, and I went to school here, which was an Arabic school, by the way, not international. So I had to work very hard on my English skills to do well in university. I also went to university here. I went to the American University of Sharjah, which is one of the best in the region. I studied computer engineering, and I did a concentration and a minor in computer science. In the university, I worked as a teaching assistant for Programming 1 and mobile applications. Basically, a teaching assistant, what they do is they grade the students' assignments and quizzes, and you in the labs and the coding sessions, you help them write better, cleaner code. After graduation, I joined Depa United Group in a 6-month training program, and I was actually given the full permanent position after only 3 months because I was able to help the company build the business applications faster, and I was giving new insights and new initiatives that helped the company a lot. So just to give you an idea about my company, Depa United Group actually consists of 4 big groups of companies that operate in different countries: United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, India, Singapore and Malaysia, Egypt, and even Germany. What they do is they work in the interior contracting industry, which means that after a project is done from the construction phase, they take care of the interior. So all the luxurious hotels, all the retail projects, the inside that you see, this is done by interior contracting companies. I will just give you a quick example from the company's project page. This is our list of projects that we worked on. As you can see, the list of projects include Burj Al Arab and Burj-Khalifa.
Wafaa, if you can't see your screen right now, please share that once again.
Oh, it's not showing? 1 second. Let's share the desktop. Okay. Now it's visible? Yes, okay. So as you can see from the projects, we have Burj Khalifa. This is the inside of Burj Khalifa. And this work that you see, all this interior is done by such companies. So this is a big industry on its own. This is the interior I'm talking about. And this is the project page that I was telling you guys about. All right, go back to the presentation. Okay. So what are your career options as a software developer or a software engineer? You could be a cloud specialist, where you build applications in the cloud, or architect applications in the cloud platforms like Google Cloud Platform, Azure, AWS, and different cloud providers that are breaking the market recently. You could also focus on data science. And if you know a lot of data science, you can also work a little bit on machine learning and AI. You could work on embedded systems if you know how to work with sensors and microcontroller devices. And finally, you could work as a web and mobile application developer, which is what I chose. My advice for you is, if you're not still sure what you prefer, is to learn a bit more about each one of these paths and find out what you like. So after figuring out what you want to do, you have to think about, or to have an idea about, the industry you can work in. There are a lot of industries in the market. There are finance companies, healthcare, manufacturing, oil and gas, energy, construction, which is the industry that my company is in. You have real estate, communication, different industries. But you have to keep in mind that for such companies, you would be part of the IT department, and your role would be developing websites and applications for your company. So your company that you are working for is your client. For example, you have an HR department, and this department requires a specific application or a specific software that you should build. Your client here is your HR department. On the other hand, if you go work for a tech company, so like a software house, for example, your client would be an external client that is hiring your company to work on a software project. All right. As for the applications that you would be building, it really depends on the company and the industry you are in, because each company and each industry have different business needs. But in general, most companies have an ERP system. This ERP system is basically an enterprise resource planning system, which is a software that is used by most of the time all your departments: HR, finance, accounting, and sales. They have different functions. For example, you're an employee and you want to you ask for leave to take 1 day off. In this case, you are using the enterprise risk management, the ERP. So you have different functions for different departments, and all of them are used by almost all the employees. Okay, in our case, Depa United Group, I will mention some of the projects that we are working on and developing. This list of projects is our project. We have the GATE, which is Enterprise Risk Management System. It's used to make the tender bidding process easier and decrease the risk of that process. What is tender bidding, you ask me? Tender is a potential project that the company did not win yet. So in the market, and this applies to many industries, by the way, not specifically interior and construction. This applies to different industries. In the market, there are projects, and your company is trying to win a project. Okay? So your company will submit a tender to the owner of that project. Tender means it's potential. I didn't win it yet. The owner of that project will have multiple tenders from multiple companies to choose from. Okay, so sometimes this project could be risky. From what sense? It could be risky that we know that the project owner does not have a good reputation, that they don't pay on time, for example, or they face a lot of delays most of the time. So this is a risky project that we are trying to not go for. So this is our gate system. We use automated email notifications, built-in email approval, and we have dashboards and charts like what we are going to build today. Unfortunately, I can't show you the system because most of what it contains, confidential information, cannot be shared. But we will build similar charts today, so that is okay. The next application is we have an application called Site Daily Diary. This is basically for construction sites to track the progress of their project, how well it's going, what they did today, what they will do tomorrow, what materials they are using. So we help them by building this application. They can plan ahead and track the progress by having a daily report for their site. This report will have all the dimensions, even the weather conditions, because in the UAE, the weather is very hot. So you need to be monitoring the weather conditions so that your labor are not harmed in any way. The next application, we have the HR PMS, which is basically HR Performance Management System. This is used to evaluate the performance of the employees, and if they are doing well and there are bonuses, then which employees deserve to have bonuses. It's based on this system. We have a portal, which is an intranet. If you guys do not know what an intranet is, it's basically a network, an internal network for the company to share resources like important documents or using. You also share announcements and new news that everyone should know. We carry out trainings for the employees. For example, last week we had a training on Excel, advanced Excel skills. And you have the company website. Company website is just a website, so it's not an application. But we are managing the company website, the one that I just showed you for the Depa United Group. We are having also websites for the rest of the group. So this website actually is a CMS. What is a CMS? It's a content management system. What does that mean? So I have a website that has the projects and information about the company, the board, the mission. I want to be able to edit that website without coding anything. So I can just edit the content without changing anything. So you will have a login page where you can log in, and I see the list, for example, a list of projects. I can add a new project that will show in the website automatically without needing to change any code or publish anything or do anything. Okay? At any point, if I'm going too fast or if you guys have any questions, you can just raise your hand and ask me. Okay? Yes, 1 second. Someone raised their hand. Oh, sorry. Let me pause the screen share because I'm not able to see the chat.
I just wanted to ask if these applications are of the same company, like in the same company website. These are the different applications which you make inside the website to cloud.
So not all of them are the same website, but all of them are for the same company, yes. We have the websites, which is, for example, let me share my screen again, 1 second.
Like for the same business, there are different
different
things.
scope, yes. So for example, this is the website, okay, that has the information about the company. We have the list of projects that I showed you. We have the services that the company offers, information about our board of directors, for example, the history. And we have app store at depa.com. This is where we have a lot of our applications that I mentioned. We have Gate here. I can actually show you just one small thing. Oh no, not. Sorry. I don't think I can. We have the daily diary that I mentioned. We have the HRPMS here. So most of the applications are in one place, yes. But for example, for the intranet or the portal that I mentioned, we have a separate website for that. We can also show you the word portal, it's okay. This is our portal where we share the announcements, the latest news. We have a digital library that has the resources of the company all in one place, like forms, if you need to submit a form or something like that.
Yes, so there are different applications to help different departments, like HR has a different application and so on.
Yes, exactly. And there are some applications that are used by everyone. So this portal is used by everyone.
Yes, I get it. Thank you.
Yeah. Yo. So we'll start the interactive coding session now. If there aren't any other questions, I did not check. If there are questions, you guys can raise your hand. Yes, please. Shahrukh.
Hello, ma'am.
Hello.
Ma'am, I want to ask about microprocessor. Is microprocessor are still used in the market because I think Internet of Things devices gonna replace that technology.
So basically, Internet of Things, you are still an embedded system. If you're talking about my embedded systems career choice, Internet of Things, you're still an embedded systems engineer because you are using, whether it's a microprocessor or a microcontroller, or if you go up to, so you have a board, for example, Raspberry Pi or Futon or similar boards. At the end of the day, you are working with an embedded system. It doesn't really, it's not important which device you are using. And it's still used in the market. Like there are companies, for example, that work on developing the traffic light and the logic behind them. So it's still very used. And you have the smart homes right now, the smart cities. there are companies that are very specialized in this sector, and they work on developing those devices. Yes, so we'll start the coding session now. Does everyone have Node.js and Visual Studio Code? It's not mandatory that you use Visual Studio Code, by the way. You can use your favorite text editor. It's fine. But I personally prefer Visual Studio Code. It's much easier to use. Does everyone have them?
Yes.
Okay. So we will start. I will just share a link for a repository. If you know GitHub repositories, where we can get started. Okay, the link is shared in the chat. Okay, so what we are building today is basically this. We have this chart, and I created multiple pages just to try out 3 different types of charts. We will have this one as well, column and bar chart. And we will have this one that's a little bit more sophisticated or more difficult, but it's not that difficult. We will see that we can do it. Okay, so I'll start like everyone else. I will download the code from the repository that I shared. This repository does not have any code yet. It will have the data files, and that's it. We will create the code together. Just click on download. You can download a zip file. I will just download it here. You guys can split the screen in half to be able to see what I'm doing and follow along if that's convenient for you. Okay. I will unzip the file. Okay. I have the full project open in code, so I will just close this. And open the one that everyone has so that we start together. At any time with the session, if you feel that I'm going too fast or you have questions, you can raise your hand and you can ask. It's okay. All right, is this step done for everyone? Okay, I'm just waiting for a minute to make sure everyone is following along.
Yes, ma'am, we are following you.
All right, great. Okay, in this Visual Studio, you see this terminal. You can click on New Terminal. And I will write a command in NPM that will install a package that we would like to use. This package is a very simple package that is basically going to work as an HTTP server that will serve our file. So you saw how I was opening this localhost, this port 8080, and then the Nasdaq.html page. This is the purpose of the package that we are downloading. It will just serve us those files. I will write npm install, and then this dash is a parameter. It will say G, which means global. I'm installing this globally on my computer. And the name of the package is HTTP server. I already have the package, but I'm installing it again along with you guys. Okay, you'll see that it's already been installed. Okay. Here is the command. Again, npm is the Node package manager that's automatically installed when you install Node.js, the runtime environment. It helps you install very useful packages and very useful frameworks and libraries. Okay. So now we can create an index.html. Farhan, if you downloaded the whole project, that's okay, but just to be able to follow along and code along with us, you can download the branch that doesn't have the full project. But it's up to you, it's okay. Okay, so there's one extension that I would recommend you guys to have. It's called HTML boilerplate. Boilerplate means like a ready-made template, sort of. You can just click on extensions here in Visual Studio Code here, and then search for HTML boilerplate, and then install. This step is not really mandatory or anything, but it's just to make your life easier as a developer. So when you write an HTML, you have this boilerplate ready instead of having to write all the tags. I'm just deleting the ones that we do not need. Yes, Wais?
Yes, can you please show me the command for NPS? NPS
Sorry?
install. For the NPL, can you please show me what code did you write for NPS? The one you wrote in the terminal.
One?
Yes.
This.
Yes.
npm install -g HTTP server.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Do you guys have the extension? If you don't want to download the extension, it's okay, but you have to write the tags, the HTML tag inside it, one head tag and one body tag. So I'll write here, project package. What we are going to be using for this one, we just have, see here we have a simple navigation bar. This is created using Bootstrap. And Bootstrap is a style library, basically. So if you know CSS, which is the cascading style sheets that give your HTML style, this library, you use classes to make simple, to make your life easier as a coder. You don't need to write the CSS code for everything. You can just write a class and you will get the ready-made look. So I'll just copy this navbar. You can Google Bootstrap navbar and it will lead you to this page. Okay. I'm just copying the code that is here, this one. I will share this link as well in the chat. Okay, so I'm copying this. And I will paste it inside my body code tag. Okay. It is always recommended to have your script tag if you're loading any libraries or any script at the end of your body, and your style sheet and the head. Why is it recommended to do that? Because it makes the loading faster of your HTML. Okay. For the style sheet, because we are using Bootstrap, we need to get the CSS here and add it in the head, as I mentioned. So this is one. And you need, because Bootstrap comes with CSS and JavaScript as well. It uses jQuery and Popper, JavaScript libraries. I will paste them here. Okay. I will just run the code to see what we have right now. And we can do that by typing in HTTP server, the package that we just downloaded. Okay, and it tells you that it's available on localhost 8080. So let's go here. So we have what we pasted, the same as the Bootstrap page. So we know everything is working fine. Now let's make our modification. For our data files, we have, like I showed you, the project values data, project types, and master. So we'll have 3 pages. Project values, project types, and the last one, master. Once we reach the Nasdaq part, I will explain what Nasdaq is. And we do not need this one. Okay, and instead of navbar, we will write the name of our application, which is in this case, we say Highchart dashboard, for example. You can see that once you refresh, our changes are reflected. Okay, are you guys following along? Okay. So what we are using right now is the Highcharts library. This is a very famous JavaScript library that is used to have different types of charts. It makes building charts very, very easy. So you don't have one of the most important principles as a software engineer. I'm sure that you guys know this, but they always told us to not reinvent the wheel. Means that if you have something that's already been invented and done, do not waste your time doing it from the beginning. Unless you are doing it just for learning purposes. For example, you're trying to build something on your own to learn. But when you are working, do not do that. Find something that's already been a ready-made library that you can use, and then you can save your time doing something more useful, or making your application better, or enhancing the performance, for example.
Ma'am?
Okay. Yes?
Are you a student of DevNation?
Sorry?
Are you a student of DevNation?
No, I'm actually, no. You joined late. I'm a software engineer. I'm working in United Arab Emirates. I'm Egyptian. And I was invited by DevNation as a guest speaker.
Means you are a teacher or a mentor? Yeah?
No, no. Not for, I'm not a teacher in DevNation or anything like that. I was a teaching assistant in university, in American University of Sharjah, which is in United Arab Emirates.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, so from the Highcharts website, we will copy this script tag. I will put it in the chat for everyone. This is the CDN. Oh, sorry. What is CDN? It's the Content Delivery Network. It's this link that you see. We can just open this link. I will show you. That has all the Highcharts code. Okay, this code is hosted by a Content Delivery Network. It's what it's called, CDN. Okay. It can be installed using npm too, by the way, but it's just easier in our case right now because we have a very small project to include a script tag. Okay. You can copy the link from the website, or you can also copy the script tag. I can put it in the chat for you guys to make it easier. So now that we have this, all the scripts, all the libraries that we need to have a dev here that inside this dev, we will have our chart. There is not a lot of HTML code involved when creating the chart. We just need to specify a dev for this one. So I have one dev. I will add to it a class P5. P5 means padding from all sides, top, bottom, right, left. And we will have a figure tag, because inside this, we will have the chart, and chart is a figure. And we will add to it a class, Highchart. Inside the figure, we will have another dev with an ID this time, not a class, ID container. Okay, this ID, it can be anything you want to put, but you need to make a note of the ID that you are putting, because you are going to be using it later. I will have another script tag. And this script is the one that we are writing. It's not a library or anything. This is the code that we are writing. So at this point, we have the template ready. We have the libraries ready. We need to build the chart. For the first one, we saw that it is, oh, not anymore, sorry. This is we are running on the same port as the old one. So it's already been, the other project has been stopped. The full project has been stopped. So, but anyway, if you remember when I showed you, the first one is a pie chart. To do that, we need data. This data we are going to get from this JSON file. A very simple JSON file. Do you guys know what JSON is? JSON, in a very short description, is the JavaScript object notation. So it's a JavaScript object that represents data. This data has properties or keys and values. So my key here, I have here an array of objects. Each one of those is an object, okay? And each object has key, name, and a value. And why? Why this one is required by Highchart? Y represents the value or the numerical value that you want to represent. So this is our data. We need to read this data. How do we do that? In JavaScript, there is a fetch function that's called to read values from an API or from a file. In our case, we're just reading from this file here. So what I will do is fetch. We will write the name and the path of this file. So we have here an index. We are at the root of the project. We need to go into data and then specify the project name. So it will be data slash project value dash data dot JSON. Okay. What does fetch return? It returns a promise. So if you don't know about promises, it's okay. There is an online MDN page that will help you to understand more about fetch. But this is how it's used. You basically have a URL, and then you get the response. Why do you have then? Then it means because fetch returns a promise that I am working on something asynchronously, and once I'm done, I will send you the results. So once you receive the results, you have a response, and you return this response. You convert it into JSON so that it's readable, and then you can do whatever you want with your data. This response to JSON is also returning a prompt. An easier way to do this, or how I usually like to do this, I create an asynchronous function like this, async function. Let's call our function, for example, fetch data init chart. So we'll fetch the data and initialize the chart in this function. Okay. And we'll have the fetch inside. Let's declare a variable var response and since we have Or we can actually, before we have await, I can show you what the promise looks like. So we'll do a console log so that we can see it in our console. And we go, sorry. One second, everyone. Okay. And we will click Control I, or you can just say developer tool. And we refresh. Nothing's happened. Why? Because we need to read the to close the running server, we can click Control C. Okay, and just type in HTTP server again. Oh, and we're not calling the function. Because here we are declaring an asynchronous function, but then we are not doing anything with it. So we need to call it here. And save the code from the HTTP server. And refresh our page. Okay, project value.data. It's right here. Okay. You can just copy the name. Values. Okay, I was missing an S. If you had the same mistake, typo, you can just fix it and refresh. See, this response, like I mentioned, is a promise. We don't have any data yet. It's a promise object. Means that there will be data after this response or after this function is done, asynchronous function is done. So how do we get that? There's a keyword in JavaScript called await. This await will return the result of that promise. Not the promise object itself, but the data that's behind the promise. Now we'll refresh and try again. So we have here, you can see already that it's a different object. Okay, we have, it has the URL, the headers, and we need, now we have the body. The body is a readable string. How do we get the data? Like I mentioned, using response.json. So we can have, for example, a variable here. We'll declare it outside the function so that we can use it outside the function. Var, for example, chart, data. We can initialize it to empty array. And here, we can say chart data equals. Oh wait, what are we waiting for? This response .json. So we need to get the value of our code. And we will console log chart data to see if we are doing everything correct. You can see here that we have an array of 5 elements, and it's the data that we saw in this JSON file. So we're doing everything correct now. We have our data, we're reading it from the server. This can be a file or an API, like I mentioned. In our case, it's a very small project, so it's just a file. Okay. Everyone following along? Any questions or anything? Great. Oh. In this case, since we have a pie chart, we need to know the total of our data value. So we have here, for example, these values represent the project value itself. So as a company, for example, my company, we are submitting tenders or trying to work on different projects. This project could have a value of less than 2 million. This M stands for million. Between 200 million. Between 200 or 50 million, 550 and 100 million, 120, or it could be greater than 200 million. These values are in AED, dirham, United Arab Emirates dirham. And this Y value represents the number of projects. So how many projects you have that are less than 20 million? You have 1,288, for example. So to be able to represent that, we need a variable that represents the total number of all of this. So I will declare here another variable. I will call it chart data total. Initialize it to 0 first. And then here, after I have my chart data, I can calculate this total by using a for loop, or if you are using JavaScript, you can use a for each. This for each is a function from JavaScript that iterates or loops over an array. Okay, so we have this array. The way to call for each, you have array name dot for each, and then you open the function call. You have element. This element represents each element in the array that you are iterating over. Okay. For each element, I want to do what? I want to have chart data total equal plus equal this element dot y. Because remember, in our array, each element is an object, and this object has a name and y. So we want the number of projects, so that's why we are doing dot y. Okay. We can see here, actually, let's see how it's doing that. If I refresh, I can see this number, which is the total of these values. So we're performing the addition correctly. Okay. Now, there is a function or the object from Highcharts. Now we will build the chart. Highchart dot chart. Okay. The first parameter in this function is the name or the ID of the div that you will build your chart on. Like I told you before, we need to make a note of this. So the ID is container. I will pass in here container. The next parameter is an object. This object represents the options or the configuration of our chart. What configurations do we need? So we have, for example, chart. This is the most important one. We have chart type. What is the type of our chart? We want it to be a pie chart. We have something in the chat. Okay. No, everything is clear. At any time, you can ask me. It's okay. One other property is title. What do we want our chart to be called? No, actually, that's it. Title, then text. We can say that this chart is, for example, project values in AED, which is United Arab Emirates dirham, for example. And then there are a lot of other options that we will add, but for now, let's have the most important one. We have series. This series represents the data that we are building the chart on. So it's an array, series is an array, and we have only one series, and it will have, so inside this array, because we have only one series, we'll have only one object inside this array. We'll have data is the object that we have right here that we assigned our data to. Let's save what we did so far, refresh, and see what we have. See, you can already see that we have a chart and our data is represented in it. Okay. We need to make this chart better. So for example, this tooltip, once I hover over a sector or a section of the pie chart, it's not very useful to me when I read 100 to 200 M series 114. What does this mean? So I need to make this more useful. And I need maybe to have here colors, these colors like a legend to show for each one how many projects are there. We can do that by using other configuration options. For example, there is an object called data. What does data labels mean? It means for each one, there will be a label like this. This is a label. What we can do for this one, it's already enabled, but just to be sure, we can set enable to true and control the format by setting format here. We have point. So each one of those has a point. Okay? And the point has values like name and y. And there are actually other values like percentage, for example, and this is specific to the pie chart. So if I say point name, and then, for example, point.y, we can see how this looks like. Not reflected. Let's see what we're doing now. Oh, this format is HTML, an HTML object. So here we can say use HTML, set it to true. And here we can have, for example, B, because we want it to be bold. And instead of Y, maybe it's better, because we already can see the value. Maybe it's better to put the percentage. And put percent here. Still not working. Data. Label. Okay, I know what the issue is. this is inside pi. Plot options first. And then we have pi. Inside pi, we have this. Let's see now. Okay, so you see this percentage is not readable at all. We need to make it better by, and this is something also embedded in Highchart. We can say this dot 1f. It means the float value will be up to 1 decimal only. See, 1.4, and everything will be rounded up to 1 decimal. It looks a lot better, looks a lot more readable. If you're ever confused about the how to write your Highchart, for any library, it's not just Highchart, you can always go to the documentation and you can see the examples, and the demonstration will help you a lot to read better. So, for example, just to show you where to look, you can look for pie charts, and you can see the API for this chart. What are the configurations available? How can you customize this, and so on? So you're not expected to memorize that, oh, Highcharts has configuration objects that has charts, that has title, that has this. No, you can always go back to the documentation and search for whatever you're looking for. Okay, so for the pie, this is already done. I want to add one more thing, and that is, once I hover here, I want this to look like a pointer. I want the mouse to be a point. You can even change that by here. In pi, you can have cursor equals to pointer. See? Very simple changes, but they increase the user experience a lot and make things look better. Okay, we can have here in the plot option, we can say show in legend and set it to true. What did I take up? Legend is not appearing yet. Because I think, oh, it was part of pi. Yeah, so this is the legend that I was talking about for easier readability. See, when I hover, it automatically hovers the section that is the same color in the pi. Okay, what else? There's one option, yes, I remember that option now. There's one option, it's called allow point select. Set that to true. You see when I select, it does this very nice animation for better user experience. We'll have one more thing, and one more thing I want to show you. We can have inside here, we can have points. Event, and we can add events, for example, on click. So, and because this is an event, what click takes is a function. This function will be executed once you click a point. I can, for example, have console.log click. See, there's the on-click event is working. The way I'm doing it in my project, for example, if I have a list of projects in a table, I can click on, for example, one of the points, less than 200 million. And once I click on that, it will filter my table based on that click. But this is a bit more advanced and it will take a lot of time to implement. So it's not included in today's class. Okay. I think this is enough for this specific example. We can start on the other pages. So very easy. I'll add another page, new file, and I will call it project type.html. Okay. I copied the content of the previous files because most of it is the same, except very small changes. For example, the title and the head here, it would be type. And here, the href in our nav bar. So this is our nav bar, right? In our nav bar, in our href, we'll have index.html. That's the one that we first worked on. And the second one, project type, is the current page will be project type.html. And we will remove this active class. We'll put it here because now this is the page that is active. And we will remove this as well. And put it here. What are we missing? Closing tag here. Okay. And this one for now, we can just say Nasdaq. We will create the file later, but we are setting the link now. Sorry, there's something in the chat. Oh, nothing. Okay. So, in this one, I will just delete this total, don't need it. And even here, we don't need it. And this file will be a different one. It will be the project type. Just that. I will explain the contents of the file. Just 1 second. Update the link. And let's leave the options right now. We'll go through them one by one. But here's the type tab. So this chart that we're trying to build, we want to have a column chart that represents the types of our project in the last, for example, 4 years. Okay, so each one, we have an array of objects again. Each object represents a category. The name of this category, for example, the first one is hospitality. We have data. This data represents an array. The first element, let's say, represents the project in 2019 or 2018. And the next one, this 2018, this is 2019, 2020, and this is 2021, and so on for the rest, for each one. How do we build this chart? We will see together. Okay. We'll have the same chart, same container. We have the container here, like I mentioned. But here, the type will have column instead of file. We will change the title to be project type in the last 4 years. Most of these charts have been asked by us to develop, by the way. So these are not just random examples. They are real life examples that are required by the business. So since we have a column chart, we will have an X and Y axis, right? In the X axis, we will have the categories, which are the years. And in the Y axis, we will have the values that should be represented. So I will have here X axis, this X axis has category. It's an array because we have different objects. We have 2018, 2019, 2020, 2020, and 2021. And then we'll have the Y axis. You just display. So, for example, minimum equals to 0. So because the y-axis, we wanted to start from 0. We don't have any minus values for this. But for example, if you are representing temperature, then in this case, you can have negative values. The title will have text, just project. Okay. Plot options, because here we have Y, the previous one. This will not be there. We will change all of this and we'll have column, because our chart is a column this time. We can see what we can do this here. Usually it's just padding or width. So I'll set them now. We'll have point, padding 0.2 is a good value, and border width, let's just set it 0 because we don't want a border. And the series is just, in this case, just the chart.
ये आपने कहना सिर्फ है कि आइंदा जाना छोटो
Let's refresh and see what we have.
हमारी बात मानते आप मत मानेगा
So let's
पहले
click
कम से
here.
कम
Oh,
2-4 दिन अपना गाड़ी सीखता फिर निकलता बड़ा अच्छा बना रहा
let's go back to the index page and add the links. This one index with HTML. This one is project type with HTML. And this one is not spec.
चलो एक दो बार जाने देंगे ना कोई बात नहीं
Project type is right here. Okay. So we have this one is very easy. It's already represented. We have the hospitality 2018 130, commercial is 40, residential yes and no. Let's let's cross check with our data. So 130 40. Not this one. This 130 40 101 and 24. Yes, so our data is correct and our representation is correct. One thing, I forgot to tell you about. Here you can see the branding or the credit of Highcharts. You can actually remove this. It's very easy to remove. Here in our here, you can add credit. Oh. Let's refresh and see. See, it's removed. Any question? So far? All clear. Okay. So our last example. No, why is this messed up? Let's see. We have a list. No. No, not any. Okay. Let's see how it was. Okay. That's what we have. It's inside the anchor tag. That's why it's messed up. Okay, yes, okay too. All right. So I'll just copy the content again, like we did. Control A, Control C. Create a new file. I'll call it master. We already having links to it. And we will paste our code. Okay, change the title and the head. It's already there. Remove the active from the previous page and put it to this one here. And this one will be removed. Okay. So for the Nasdaq, what is Nasdaq exactly? Nasdaq is the stock market trading platform in New York. It's one of the most popular trading platforms where you can buy the stocks. So why do we need to create a chart for Nasdaq? Basically, because in my company, this is one of the charts that we're also using in real life. In my company, it's a publicly listed company. And that means that people can buy stocks and shares in that company. So it is very important for the business to monitor the stock price. So this is the next example. It's a chart that will represent the stock price over time. Sorry. Okay. I'll show you the data so that we get an idea. This data is actually coming from Nasdaq itself. So Nasdaq has a website that provides an API where you can call that API. If you don't know what API is, that's an application interface, application program interface. I think it was, right? You can call the API and get the data that you require. Okay, so from that API, we are getting different values that we don't need to worry about right now. What we worry about is the time of last update, which is the date we need, and the display price. So we'll have a chart using those values, the price versus time. So since we are getting the chart data here, we need to convert that data or change how it looks so that we can use it in our chart. First of all, let's see the data that we have. No, we didn't change the link. Okay, this will be enough like that. Huge. The chart is messed up right now because we did not configure it yet further. But you see the data that we are getting, it has a lot of values that we don't need, that we will not use. And we need to change the shape of this data to make it useful to us. We can use for this, we can declare another variable, call it result, and you can say chart data equal result. We will use a map function. This map functionality, you can call it on JavaScript arrays, and it will map the values of this array to this array. And we will choose how the new array will look like. So for example, I want the new array, each object to have a date and no, actually not a date. It will, each object in our new array should be, so we'll have an array of arrays. I'll show you how it would look like. if we have two arrays, for example. We have the first element, which will be the date, in a timestamp format. If you don't know what timestamp is, for example, we have today's date, 5th of June, 2021. This date can be represented in a very large number like this. It would look like this. This is the timestamp. Actually, let's leave it. And the other value would be the price of that stock. So for example, the price of the stock at this date, this time and date, would be 0.23, for example. Similarly, we'll have the second element of the big array is another array. It has a different stamp, okay, and a different price, or even the same price. This is how we need our data to look like. So what we are going to do is we'll have the map function. We'll declare var new element, and it will be an array, as I mentioned. And we can say this new element, the first one inside it will be the date. So we'll have new date element dot, what was the property that represents the date? It was time of last update. So say this, we are creating a date, and then we use, this will return the date, JavaScript date, that is created based on the value of our time of last update value. So that date, I want to convert it to timestamp. I will say get time. Okay. And then here we'll have the second element will be the price. So we'll say element. This element is this one that we are looping over. Element dot display underscore price, which I got from here. Okay. And then after this, I will return new n, so that each element in my chart data would look like this new element. It will have a date and a value. And we will display the chart data just to show you. We have a large array, and each element is another array that has two items, timestamp and value, timestamp and value, and so on. Okay. Now, for this one, we need to load a different script other than Highcharts, because this is our chart will be a stock chart. So we need just here, can add stock Highcharts.js, and I will add another one, another one, and another one. Okay, we will edit these to represent the libraries that we need to import. So the module, okay, .js. So modules again. This one is exporting .js. Same here. Modules export dash data I will copy these to you so that it's not confusing. Chat. We are running a bit late, I'm sorry, but we are almost done. Okay. I know this example is a bit more elaborate and longer, but we will do it quickly, don't worry. So this one would be stock chart, like I mentioned. It's not a normal chart. The same value we are passing is the container, the ID of our dev, okay? And here we'll have different. We will need the series, but it would look different. So first we have title, text, let's say Depa PLC, stock, price, and specify the currency, USD. Okay, and we will have a range selector. I will show you what the range selector is in a minute. Selected. I think selected. Let's see if it doesn't work. Okay. Series is, in this case, an array. And we'll have one object inside that array. We'll have name, the name of our series. I'll just say stock, price, USD. And the data to the series is our chart data. And since this is a stock chart, there's something called marker. So we'll enable that marker. I will also show you what it is. Enable true. Enable. And we will set the radius to 2. Okay. We refresh right now. We had issues. 1 second. This doesn't have a source. Can you guys fix it? The first script does not have a source. Refresh and see. Again, merge of undefined. Highcharts is not.
You have to remove stock from first line, first script. Yeah.
Is it? I remember it was.
Now refresh.
Oh,
At my end,
no, it should be there, but I think it's high stocks or high stock.js, not high stock. Let's see if it works, and then I will send you the link. Okay, it works. I will send the link now. The script tag, I mean. Okay. So, okay. This is the marker. The vertical line that you see and the dot that you see, this is the marker. And this is the selector that we enabled. So this selector lets us select the range that you want to represent. And when we change this range, you can see the date here, from and to, are also changing.
Yeah.
They automatically change. And we have here, you can control the zoom that you're having. So for example, 1 month. This is only 1 month. The selector changes to 1 month, 3 months. From year to date, it means from the beginning of this year to today, 1 full year, where you can have all the values. This is okay. So this is basically it. I don't know why this project type is messed up until now. I think there's something wrong with the you guys can check it later. It's okay. So this is the project that we have. We're basically done. We implemented 3 charts. One to represent the project values, one to represent the type, and one to represent the stock price. This code, the full code that we just worked on, is available. If you saw the repository, there's one branch called exercise that doesn't have the HTML code that we just created today. And we have one branch called main. It has the full code. So if you download this and you run HTTP server in the terminal like we did, you will be able to see the code that we created today. Do you guys have questions? Yes, Asad?
I wanted to ask, what about real-time data? Because let's suppose the stock chart we make, the stock probably changes every 2 seconds, 3 seconds. So yeah. Where does the real-time data come from? Because we're only using a JSON file.
Like I mentioned, the JSON file in this case is just to simplify the example that we are working on. But this doesn't change much when you are working on real-time data, because you will have here the fetch function. You can give it an API URL. So if you have a backend API or URL that is providing you with the real-time data, this will also, you'll just replace the URL here. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Teaching us all how we can build dashboard. So yeah.
Anyone else? Okay, so I'll just mention few recommendations and tips from someone who's been in the industry for 3 years now. These are things that I learned from my mentor, and some of this I learned on my own. My advice to you is to not limit yourself to one technology. Like, you don't say, I am a .NET developer or I am a JavaScript developer. You are a software developer. End of text. So whatever technology is there, if you understand it, you can work on anything. If you have good logic and good understanding of the technology you are using, you can work on anything. When I started, I was working with some technology. For example, there was a technology called Angular. I started working on Angular, and then with time, I learned other technologies like React and Vue. I'm sure some of you guys have heard about these frameworks as well. And at that point, you're a software developer or a web developer. You are not limited to one technology. My other advice is to keep studying and get certified. I recently got certified from AWS. I have the Cloud Practitioner certification. Sometimes certifications are very important in the market. It's a very good way to get the attention of employers if you are looking for a job. You should always work on your English and your soft skills. Like I mentioned in the beginning, I attended an Arabic school. I did not know a lot of English. I only started focusing on my English skills at the end of my school, just to be able to follow along in university, because everything is in English. And soft skills, it means your time management, your project management, your presentation skills, your people skills as well, how you interact with people. This is important. It's not correct to just focus on the technology aspect of the job. You need to also focus on your people skills, because this is how you get a job. For example, in the beginning, in the first interview, they don't ask you what technology you use, or they don't give you a task, here, solve this. First, they see you as a person and they interact with you. So how you present yourself is very important. And my last advice is to keep practicing on side projects. There are millions of side projects that you can work on. You can see any project that you like and just try to build something similar. For example, recently I was working on building a social media application, web application. So you just be able to post, write a post, get comments, get likes, get notifications. Very simple idea, but once you try to code it, you need to think about the architecture of your database, how your user interface will look like. And this is what is going to give you experience before you start working. Even for me, I'm working right now. I'm still practicing on side projects and creating my own projects. Do not be limited to the projects that you get assigned as an employee in your company. So this is it for today. I hope you guys learned something today or enjoyed today's session. Any final questions or anything?
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, how much time we should spend on learning on a specific or particular skill set? Like as in, if I'm working in artificial intelligence, then how much should I spend? Can you explain it?
If you are working, I mean, how much you spend time, it really depends on you as an individual. So what goal do you have? When did you start? It really depends from one case to another. But speaking about I don't know a lot about artificial intelligence because I'm working in web and application development. But in the beginning, I used to spend at least 2 hours a day working on my side projects, reading articles, watching YouTube videos, just to get an idea about the market that we are in, or what new technologies do I need to know about. So in my opinion, at least 2 hours a day in the beginning, if you don't have a job. So because you're preparing to have a job, you need to spend some time and effort.
Ma'am, should we work alone or with a group?
You should, I think it also depends on you as a person, but I think in the beginning, once you know the fundamentals, you should try to work with other people to learn from them as well, because not everyone is the same. And most of the time you will find someone that knows something more than you do and will be able to teach you. And you will know something that the other person doesn't. So you can share experience and learn from each other. Most of the people I know, actually, they have mentors. So they have someone like a senior. They know more about a specific technology or a specific framework, and they try to work with that senior to learn more.
Ma'am, I have a question.
Yes.
Ma'am, there is so much bombardment of information regarding distinct technologies, so the student get misled from the core of his subjects. So how can we minimize that portion and get to focus on one discipline of a technology? You
mean different technologies or different sources for the same technology?
No, different, because you can be a master of one discipline instead of the jackal of different sources. So how can we focus on one core subject, on one core discipline?
I mean, okay, if we are talking specifically about web development and mobile development, I don't think you should focus on only one thing. Like, for example, there's a stack. In web development, there is a stack, which is the list of technologies that are used, for example, for the database, for the back end, for the front end. You should know at least one stack. So if you are working mainly with JavaScript, for example, you should choose, okay, this is the sort of, or the type of database that I want to use. Could be MySQL or MongoDB. And you have a backend, for example, Node.js or .NET framework or PHP or Python. It depends, but just choose something, okay? And then you have the front end as well. Choose something from that one and work on perfecting that stack. Once you already know it too well, then you start exploring other technologies. And because you already know, for example, you already know JavaScript really well. There's TypeScript. Once you know JavaScript, TypeScript will be easy for you. But don't try to learn everything at the same time. Choose something, perfect it, and learn everything about it. Be very good at it, and then look at other options. Yes, Aisha?
Yes, ma'am. Hi, how are you?
Hi.
Today's session is very informative. I myself learned a lot from this. Thank you so much for your precious time. My first question is that we learn different source skills like programming, data science, and others which we have interest. But what the other international companies, like you are working in UAE, you told her. So what they demand from us?
It's different from one company to another. But the way to do it is this is something I always do, by the way. I see on LinkedIn the job posting, the most recent one, the job posting. For example, I can see that 5 companies are looking for web developers, and their criteria or their requirements, they want someone who knows .NET, for example, or who knows Microsoft SQL Server databases. So you can get an idea about what most of the companies want from these job posting, because you can't ask everyone in a company what stack you are using or what the technology your company uses. But you can know that from the job advertisement. That's what I do.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Anyone else? I think that's it. Mudassar?
Awesome. So thank you very much, Wafaa, for the wonderful live coding session and teaching us how we can build dashboards in JavaScript. And I hope we all learned a lot and we were able to follow along. And just reiterate, as you explained, that both hard and soft skills are equally important in the industry, and that is what we aim to provide our students at DevNation. And we also have other live coding sessions coming up really soon. So stay tuned, follow us on Facebook, on YouTube, and LinkedIn. And we hope to bring you guys more content that will help you become Silicon Valley caliber developer. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending.
Thank you so much, everyone.